How's it going, folks? Taylor Wachowski here. In today's video, we'll be talking about something a little bit different. We're going to be talking about emotional support animals, or ESAs. Since we're going to be talking about emotional support animals today, if this is not your cup of tea, I totally get it. Feel free to check us out next time, and I'll try to have a training video up for you then. For the rest of you that would like to hear my opinion and see why I respect ESAs as much as service animals, then let's get started. Today I decided to talk about this topic for a specific reason, and that's because I feel like ESAs kind of have a bad name, or they kind of have a bad reputation. A lot of people tend to think of these animals when they hear the term ESA, or oh yes, he's my emotional support animal, or I have an emotional support animal. People kind of tend to roll their eyes or give you that look like, really? You're one of those people? And I just think it's really not necessary and really misunderstood. So first off, let's talk about the difference between emotional support animals and service animals. Now, the difference between the two is that a service animal is usually a dog or occasionally a small miniature pony, depending on what the person's needs are. But generally a dog that is trained to do a specific task for a human. So these specific tasks could be for anyone who is hearing impaired, sight impaired, they have trouble moving about, they have mobility issues, maybe they have PTSD, they have panic attacks, maybe they get lost, maybe they have, they're a diabetic or an epileptic. Anything and everything that you have a medical issue with, that you get help from having a service animal. Say you want to live alone, or you do live alone, and you don't want to have to rely on a person helping you. That's where the service dog comes in. So they are trained to perform specific tasks. They go through specific training. It takes a long time. A lot of times they're very expensive. A lot of people can train their own animals. If you're able to do that, good for you. That's awesome. There's no specific registration for them. A lot of times those are a sham, unless you need a doctor's note for either housing or for travel. That's usually just about all that you need when you have a service animal with you. Emotional support animals are completely different. They are not specifically trained to perform any one task. In the simplest of terms, they are there to support you emotionally. Their very presence provides you with emotional support. Now, they don't need any specific training. A lot of people can just slap a vest on them and take them anywhere they like. Generally that means, into stores, into specific housing that's not otherwise pet acceptable, or they can even fly with them. For these guys, for specific housing and flying, you will require a doctor's note saying that you were prescribed this animal and it is necessary for this emotional support animal to be within your care and within your life, and when you're traveling or living elsewhere. That does not mean that you are allowed to go into certain other areas like restaurants or grocery stores or other areas when these animals are just emotional support animals. They are not a necessity to help you in that situation, so they have different laws for that. According to ADA, or the Americans with Disabilities Act, that's why service animals, they are basically a tool. It's just a living, breathing tool that is there to help you with your everyday life. Just because you have a service animal doesn't necessarily mean you need to take them everywhere with you, but they are there to help you without your extra everyday life. Same thing can go for emotional support animals. I personally think that ESAs should be deserving of more respect, because they actually are very helpful. Now, they're not necessarily specifically trained like a service animal, because we might not necessarily need anyone to alert us of a diabetic attack or an epileptic, you're gonna have a seizure, your blood sugar's too low, or you're something specific like that. The reason I feel ESAs are equally as important as a service dog, and that's not to bring any service animal down any peg. I mean, they're up here, that's fine. I just feel that ESAs, in some cases, depending on what they're used for, are actually equally very important. Not everyone has a physical disability. There's a lot of invisible illnesses out there, including a lot of mental health and mental stability. And I feel like that these animals, that if you are not qualified enough to have a service animal, but you still benefit from having that companionship and just something, another living creature that can calm you and keep you, mentally stable and emotionally stable. I think that's also a good choice as well. Now, not everyone is going to be suitable to have a full-fledged service dog, so I think that's where ESAs come in very important. Now, it's important to understand that they do not require any specific training, and that's where a lot of people say, oh, of course, who wouldn't want their dog to go with them everywhere they go, or to be able to go into, stores and fly free and live free and this and that. And I get where they're coming from. A lot of people abuse the system, including with service animals, including with everything. If there's a way to cheat it, then they will. But for the people who do actually take care to have a well-mannered animal, no matter what, whether it's a pet dog, an ESA, a service dog, a hunting dog, whatever it is, canine dog, I give them more respect, and they are actually that's the majority of people who have these animals to help them. For someone who has lived with anxiety and pretty severe anxiety all my life, trust me, I mean all my life. I remember being very young and having anxiety and almost panic attacks when I was in kindergarten. I might not seem it now, but in general life, I am very anxious. I have pretty severe social anxiety. I also have pretty bad depression. I've been working on these invisible illnesses for years, until I found proper medication and therapy and psychiatry, and seeing all these people to help me be just level enough that I can actually start learning how to cope and overcome things that I'm fearful of. Anxiety does not just go away. In some cases it helps, but it's always going to be there. So just like working with dogs, you have to do it slowly. You have to work with it slowly and just manage it. Along with medication and seeing a therapist and a psychiatrist and talking to doctors and keeping up with my mental state, having Adonis as my emotional support animal really does help. Of course, he's my pet dog. He'll always be my pet dog. But to me, he's more than that. To the outside world, he's just a dog. To me, he provides me with so much more than just that comfort of having a dog. He keeps me calm, and not just because he's soft and I'm petting him. The same thing wouldn't happen with just any animal. With us, we've created this bond. We've worked together. He is, of course, well-mannered. He would be well-mannered as a pet anyway. Even if I had no other need for him, he would still be just as well-mannered as he is now. But the benefit is that he can still help me. He can be that tool. Aside from having just good manners, he also helps me, physically. Now, aside from having just good manners, he can also help me physically. I have bad knees and I have a bad back. Each one triggers the other. But so sometimes I can't bend over. Sometimes I can't get up off the ground. So I have taught him to specifically pick up items off the ground, pick up things that I drop. He can go and fetch things for me, go grab something from another room, bring it back to me. If I drop something in different settings, if I'm in a store and I drop something, he's able to pick it up and hand it to me. If I can't bend over, say my back's hurting me or something, and I can ask him to, here in the house, jump up on the couch. So he's only 2 feet tall, but I can ask him to jump up on the couch so I can put his harness on, put his equipment on, his regular collar, and we can go out for a little walk. If I'm having trouble going up stairs, which is actually a big issue for me, or going up an incline, I can actually tell him to move forward. I can actually ask him to pull, and he will actually pull me up and help me in walking up this hill. That he has actually learned, apart from anything I've been able to teach him, he actually alerts me when I'm going into a panic attack. He will stop me from spiraling. Now, I don't have them as often as I used to, and they're not quite as severe as they used to be, but I still do. If I start to get anxious, he can tell when my blood pressure raises, when my heart starts beating faster, when, I'm sure my, endorphins and different chemicals in the brain change, and he can sense that. He'll come in from a different room if he senses that I'm starting to get hot. He can sense, hear, and smell these things. He can also see them. I'm sure he feels them in different ways that dogs do. So if I happen to be getting anxious, even if I'm laughing, if I'm crying, hysterically because I'm laughing, or if I'm crying because I'm upset, if I'm getting flustered or irritated by anything, he will come in, and depending on the degree of the emotion, he will sit and put pressure against me if I'm just sitting here, and that kind of is a cue to me. He can't do everything, but it's a cue to me that, okay, I'm getting too anxious. He's trying to help me calm down. If I'm really focused on something and I can't snap my mind out of it, he'll either bark at me to snap my mind out of it, or he'll just paw me a little bit and just say, hey, snap out of it. And once I'm back into my active mind again, then I can start using my coping mechanism, my coping skills that I've learned through therapy. So it's all intertwined, having the medication, having the doctors and the therapy, and having the emotional support animal, or just someone there to be able to tell you, when you're going too far, when you're spiraling, to keep you kind of back down and level. So to me, that is very much appreciated, because he allows me to be able to go out, because he allows me to be independent, and just kind of is there as an extra little tool to just say, hey, hey, you're getting too worked up. You're working yourself up. So that is a very big help for me, something I really appreciate, and I think a lot of other people have this kind of help too. He knows me and I know him, and he can tell exactly when I'm, getting above too anxious to where I can't handle it. And he really helps me in more than just being a pet dog. So I know there's a lot of people out there who do suffer from the same kind of, mental illnesses or people, there's a stigma about having mental illness and nobody should ever go to a therapist, or you're crazy, or if you're depressed, then it means that you just stay in the house all day with the lights off, and a lot of people do deal with that. I happen to have functioning depression, so I can look and talk just fine. I can put this face on, I can talk to you. You would never know there's an issue going on, but deep down inside, I'm not motivated by anything. I'm, highly depressed and things are going on, and thankfully I'm not like that now. But, Adonis has been with me through all that. He's helped me through all that as well. So I know there's a lot of other people out there who are dealing with things like this, and they may have their animals that are emotional support animals, and they help them so much more than just being a dog or a cat or a ferret or a bird or a rat, whatever it is, to just sit there and pet because it makes them happy. It's much more than that. I take mental illness very seriously. I take the care of animals very seriously. And I think that if we take care of ourselves, we can equally take care of our animals, and vice versa. We need to be able to take care of ourselves and not be afraid of judgment, and we need to be able to judge less. So just because someone says they have an ESA, or they have a service dog, or they just have a pet dog, okay, great. Don't judge them. You don't know what's going on in their life. Just because they have a special animal with them that you might think it's silly that everyone should have their dog there. Well, just because they don't require training doesn't mean that they shouldn't have training. I think especially for ESAs, they should have more training than you would think that they need. Be extra good with their basic obedience to their management. That way people will never even question that, oh, it's just an ESA. These dogs are very well mannered, as a service animal. You don't know they're there, and they still help their person, all the same with their anxiety or with their depression or with confidence or whatever it is that they need. So yeah, the laws are still different, and it's very important to understand the difference between those two laws, is that ESAs are not permitted to go everywhere with you. The two exceptions are with housing and with flying. And with those two, you generally need a doctor's prescription saying it is necessary to have this animal with you in this housing or on this flight. That's my message today. Just wanted to give a little bit of an extra explanation and kind of give my 2 cents about having an ESA, and obviously the difference between them and a full service animal. But they're not just any animal. It's not just having your animal with you everywhere you go. They should still be well-mannered. They should still mind their own business. They should still be able to give you comfort and provide comfort for you. And I hope that they do help you. I hope that they help you with your mental state, with any kind of emotional state that you're in, because these animals do a lot more than just make us happy. They can really help us with a lot of invisible illnesses people won't see. This is just my opinion on why I feel that ESAs are important to have in a person's life, depending on the situation. I hope you'll enjoy this video. Next time I'll try to have a training video out for you all, and until then, stay positive.